Greetings from this grassy, muddy, messy field in the middle of the monsoon and this lovely picnic table that's coming out of the back of an SUV. Now ordinarily we wouldn't use this kind of setting for a shoot, but this is a Range Rover and somehow it just feels apt. Now I say Range Rover and that can be a little bit confusing because Range Rover is the name of a brand that makes a number of SUVs, the Evoque, the Velar, the Sport, but this one is just called Range Rover. It has no suffix and that means it's the flagship, the big daddy of the range. But actually it does have a suffix, L. Yes, this is the long wheelbase or limousine version of the Range Rover, and that means I'm going to start this review from the back seat. But before we go any further, what do you think of the long wheelbase Range Rover? Let us know in the comments. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a like and do subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to be notified each time we upload a new video. Now, isn't this just the life? I'm sat in the back of this long wheelbase Range Rover. I've got acres of legroom, more than I'll ever need. And this is such a huge cabin, not just with the massive windows that offer me a great view out, but with this massive panoramic sunroof that lets in so much of this unsightly weather today. Now I should tell you right at the start that this is not the maximum spec that you can get this back seat in. Oh no, if you opt for the SV Autobiography version, you'll get two individual seats that slide and recline and massage you, and you get this massive central console running between them. But no, this one's not too shabby either. It's the bench seat option, so you can fit a third person if you want to, but if you don't, there is this big central armrest that has cup holders and even the remote control for the entertainment screens. Quite handy. And it also still has a reclining backrest, so that makes it quite comfy. And I assure you, this is still one of the plushest seats you can find. Now, what would you rather be in the back seat of this or a conventional luxury limousine sedan? Let us know in the comments. Now, as is befitting a car of this size, price and stature, it comes with air suspension at all four corners. It's also riding on 21-inch wheels. But I have to say, despite that, the ride is absolutely superb. It's got this lovely, plush, luxurious feel. There's no hint of sportiness or firmness in this at all. I could get used to this. But while I could sit here all day, this is Autocar after all, and I do have to tell you how the big Range Rover drives. So I think it's about time I abandon this luxurious seat and head to the driver's seat. On the way to the front though, let's quickly take a look at some of the details on this behemoth. What really makes the long wheelbase version stand out is its size. At 5.2 meters long and 3.1 meters wide, it has a gargantuan footprint on the road and a presence to match. And if you lift the air suspension to its maximum height, you leave most hatchbacks and sedans well below window level. The only downside is that with the height comes a step up into the cabin, which might be a bit awkward at a fancy cocktail party. So imposing is the size of the thing, most might miss the few changes that came with the facelift. Slightly different bumpers, new wheel designs including these tremendous 21-inchers, and sharper headlamp graphics with optional pixel LED beam elements. And with that, it's off to take the wheel. There's just no escaping the size of this car. Yes, the steering is nice and light and that makes it easy to maneuver this massive bulk around. But you're always aware of how much car extends behind you. These big mirrors thankfully give you a good view behind. You do get used to it in time, but you will still find yourself checking your mirrors a lot more often than you would in any other car. And now let's talk about the handling. And well, is that even a question? This is a 5.2 meter long SUV that's riding on soft air springs and has a nice, slow, lazy steering. It handles like you think it handles. It's very soft, it's very wallowy, and you really wouldn't even attempt to push this thing hard around a corner. Just don't even try it. That said, there is a peculiar kind of thrill you get from hustling this big SUV down a windy road. Now you can have the Range Rover with one of 4 engines. At the top of the heap sits the 5-litre supercharged petrol V8. Below that is the diesel V8, and there's also a supercharged V6 petrol. But the one I'm driving is the base engine. It's the V6 turbo diesel. But don't be put off by that. It still packs some pretty healthy numbers. And certainly in everyday driving, pottering around town and things like that, you'll feel no shortage of power from this V6. It hustles this big car along without an issue at all. There are situations, however, where you wish that you'd opted for one of the bigger, more powerful engines, such as when you're overtaking out of the highway at high speeds, or, God forbid, you want to drive this car in anger. And while I'm here, let me tell you about what they've done with the interior on this facelifted version. This being the top dog Range Rover, there is of course beautiful leather all over the place in huge swathes. Whether it's the dashboard, the doors, the steering wheel, it all feels soft and really, really nice. There's also huge slabs of wood veneer, like here on the central console, bits on the dash, and even on the door pads. And there's loads of brushed aluminium all over the place that feels really nice and cool to the touch. But all that was to be expected in a Range Rover. What's new are some of the more modern touches. For instance, the window switches, which are as ever placed on top of the windowsill, are now this lovely brushed aluminium effect. As before, you have digital dials, but they are a lot crisper and have a number of configurable options inside. But the biggest change is, of course, the adoption of In-Control Touch Pro Duo from the Range Rover Velar. It is the new dual screen system with your regular touchscreen at the top. It has a nice feature that lets you tilt it towards you to avoid glare and make it more reachable. It's the lower screen that's a bit more interesting. You see, it operates the climate control, the seat, heating and ventilation, and the drive modes. It's not all touch though. You do get these 2 physical dials that are contextual once again and let you change things like the temperature and the blower speed, which means you can perform a few basic functions without taking your eyes off the road. The equipment additions do wonders to alleviate the sense of modernity in the Range Rover, which before this felt a little behind the times. However, the one thing we wish they added with this comprehensive update is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, neither of which are part of the package. But the best thing about a Range Rover is that should the mood take you, you can just leave the tarmac and drive wherever you want. Now, admittedly, this is not a proper off-road course or anything remotely challenging, but the thing is, this car has world-renowned off-roading capabilities, and the amount of confidence it gives you just to plow over anything is unparalleled really in this sort of segment. Even with its long wheelbase, it's capable of a lot more than what I'm throwing at it right now. And let's just say, in any other luxury SUV, I'd have probably thought twice before proceeding ahead, even on this course. In this one, I didn't bat an eyelid. All Range Rovers are on the expensive side, and though this car doesn't have any direct rivals, it still feels a little steep for what it is. Its price ranges from a not inexpensive 1.87 crore rupees ex-showroom for this long wheelbase diesel V6, all the way to a Bentley Bentayga rivaling 3.88 crore rupees for the long wheelbase SV Autobiography with a supercharged petrol V8. It does, however, have more room in the back seat than a Bentley and arguably better off-roading ability should you ever need it. The updates with the facelift help it feel a bit more modern and more luxurious too. Let's face it, despite sharing its name with the rest of the model range, the Range Rover really sits above it, in a rarefied class of its own. And while it can take you just about anywhere, with its price, size, space and luxury, it's more about making sure you've arrived.